Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be reviewing Season 19 of Classic Doctor Who. Season 19 of Classic Doctor Who. Peter Davison, the complete Season 1. The American versions of these really do suck. So, Season 19 has 7 stories in it, which is, of course, a lot for a classic Doctor Who season. We have Castrovalva, Forward to Doomsday, Kenda, The Visitation, Black Orchid, Earthshock, and Time Flight. And they definitely range from very good to very bad to stuff in the middle. There's highs, lows, and stuff in between. It's my second favorite Davison season. It's not my least favorite. It's not my favorite. It's the one that falls in the middle for me because there are definitely high highs. There are definitely low lows. Definitely not a consistency on quality here. And one or two that I would say be middle of the road. It's definitely all over the place in terms of quality for me. Now, this is the first season that is done with Tom Baker having departed the role, with Peter Davison really having some big shoes to fill. I can't imagine what that must have been like in 1981, 1982. With the show continuing for the first time without Tom Baker, who had been so iconic in the role, who had played the role for so long, who so many kids had probably grown up with him in the role, who was very much the definitive Doctor, and to this day still is for a lot of people, myself included. That had to be a daunting task for Peter, for the production team, for the show. I think it pulls it off pretty well. I like Peter Davison as the Doctor. I think he's a little bland at times. He has grown on me, though. In some ways, he kind of reminds me of a very young version of the first Doctor. There is definitely some first Doctor in him, how he talks to his companions sometimes, how he's a little short-tempered sometimes, how he just seems overly annoyed at other times. But he does have a soft, kind side, too. The interesting thing is that the Fifth Doctor varies from episode to episode. There are times he is a bit bland, like Davison doesn't quite know what he wants to do, so he plays it safe. But there are other times he makes some really interesting choices. I tend to like in Season 21, for example, in Frontios, how he actually gets to be an actual medical doctor, really. But for Season 19 especially, he's still kind of finding his groove and figuring out what he wants to do with the role. It does kind of feel like it took a long time for Davison to really settle on what he wanted to do with the role and where he wanted to take it. I think because of his young age, he did play it safe a bit. Some of his audios, naturally, now that he's much older, he makes much more, I think, firm decisions about where he wants to take the character. I like the companions. Now, Adric, to me, is better with Tom, but I still like Adric well enough. He's not the best. He's okay with Peter. And I do like Sarah and Tegan, or I should say Nyssa and Tegan, and Sarah and Janet a lot. I think they're very good companions. I always feel like Nyssa never got developed as well as she should have. I think just because of the crowded TARDIS. That is a problem possibly with Season 19, is a crowded TARDIS. I feel like Nyssa, because there's so many main characters, never really got the development she deserved. She does feel a bit vanilla as a character. I think Sarah's playing her well with what she has, and I like Nyssa as a character. But I wish they had done more with that, especially her dynamic with the Master, since he's basically walking around wearing her father's corpse. There's so much you could have done with that. Tegan, on the other hand, I like. Tegan, I feel like, does grow over the course of her tenure with the show all the way up to when she leaves in Resurrection. But I do like Tegan. I like the snark. I like the humorous bickering between her and Five, which to me is very relative to the humorous bickering between Peter and Janet. I love how they get on in real life. And that a lot of that seems to be there with Five and her as well. Five and Tegan as well. So I like this TARDIS team. Now, I think even in the 80s, it shows that trying to have the crowded TARDIS like you had in the 60s doesn't work. Because even from the 60s to the 80s, I feel like the TV landscape had changed. And that the slower paced television of the 60s was really gone even by the 80s. It might not have been quite as jump cut pace as now, but things still moved at a much quicker pace than they did in the 60s. So even by the 80s, that 60s format with the multiple companions, the 3 companions, just I don't think it works anymore fully. And that's what causes characters not to get fully fleshed out, like Nyssa and even Adric, in my opinion. And maybe even the Doctor taking so long to flesh out. Now, they are still using film for location work and, of course, the 2-inch quad tape for studio work. One of the great things about Season 19 is it's kind of the holy grail in the sense that we have all the location work. The film elements for the location work still exist. This is typically not the case with Classic Who, even though Classic Who was largely shot on film for the location work. Most of the time, since it was edited on videotape, the original film elements have been lost to time. But Season 19, all of the location work survives. They still have the film elements. Probably why they brought out the Season 19 box set second, so they could show that off. And because of that, the stories that have location work, the location work looks great. It looks great. You can actually tell the difference in quality sometimes when it's switching between a scene shot on film and a scene shot on videotape. You can see the difference in the quality of the film, since the film excerpts are true HD and the studio excerpts are upscales. You think about The Visitation when you see the Doctor going in a window, which is shot outside, to the Doctor coming in the window, which of course is shot in a studio. And you can see the difference in quality there. So it's really nice to have a whole season of location work. Now, not every story has location work, but the ones that do really, really pop. Castrovalva, Black Orchid, The Visitation, and I believe even a little bit at the beginning of Earthshock look really good. Because of that, we have a variety of stories. I enjoy some of the guest casts as well. I'll talk about those when I get to the individual stories. We have a variety of stories throughout this season. The story that starts it off, the post-regeneration story, Castrovalva, I'm very fond of this one a lot. It's arguably my favorite Davison story. It's definitely my favorite of the season. One of my favorite Davison stories, if not my favorite. It and the 5 Doctors are really close. The updated effects, the optional updated effects on the Season 19 box set also do help it out. They make it pop a little bit. That was kind of the one thing holding it back. But it's neat. You see the Doctor suffering from post-regeneration problems, trauma. And then, of course, the Master is involved. He kind of steals. It's a little confusing, this story, to be fair. But they end up at a place called Castrovalva, which the Doctor, it still takes a minute for him to kind of click with what's happening. He seems a little disoriented, but he knows something's not right about this place. And watching him slowly figure out what's going on there is fantastic. I really like Anthony Ainley in this, who is, of course, playing the Master. But as we know, like, spoiler alert, I guess, for a story from 1982, the Master, of course, is disguised as the Portreeve. And I like how he plays the Portreeve. And I always give this episode credit because I didn't realize it. This was probably the first Davison story I ever owned physically, because I bought the New Beginnings DVD box set. I'm looking at it like it's right here. It is right down here out of camera range. I'm looking at it like I expect you to know that. But I bought the New Beginnings box set on DVD, which was Keeper of Traken, Legopolis, and Castrovalva. And I did not realize that was Anthony Ainley. It fooled me. It wasn't until the reveal that it was the Master. I was like, okay, you got me. It's not like King's Demons where I could see it a mile away. They actually got me. I like how Anthony Ainley played the Portreeve as a character. And then the scenes when the Doctor is asking, okay, where's the Portreeve's house? And the guy's like, here, here, and here. And then even the guy's like, that doesn't make sense. And the updated effects really help it too. When everything starts looking a little wonky and weird, the original effects for that were kind of naffed. The updated effects help. But I do enjoy that one a lot. And the location work we get for it looks really good. You also have Forward to Doomsday, which I like. Forward to Doomsday. Forward to Doomsday is an interesting one because it seems it's one of those that doesn't seem to have a general consensus. I see other people online who like it. I see other people online who don't. So that seems split between people who like it and people who don't. I like it. It's completely studio bound, but I enjoy the story. I think some of the musical numbers, the dance numbers and stuff, go on a little too long. But I enjoy it. It's also one of the rare times you get to see the Doctor using the Sonic, because the 5th Doctor loses the Sonic so early in his run, and you actually get to see him use it a little bit here is nice. Adric's very annoying in it. Adric's very annoying in it. But I like the people who play, like Monarch, the guy playing Monarch is good, and then his two assistants, like Regret and whatever the other one is, I forget what they're called. I like them. I feel like they do really well. I like the fact we learned Tegan's can sketch, and I hate the fact we never saw that again. I enjoyed Tegan in this story. Nyssa, I feel like Nyssa doesn't really get to do much in this story, but I can't remember right all. I think it's funny how easy it is to stop the robots by pulling their cord off of them, but I guess that's kind of something that's only easy if you know that that's how you do it. That cliffhanger when the guy is like, this doctor is me, with a little, it's a nice cliffhanger. I think the effects are fine. You could argue they're a little naff, but I think they're fine. I enjoy this one a lot. I like, the actual story is just different to me. I don't see Doctor Who do a story like that a lot. So I really enjoy it. Then we have Kenda, which you guys know I don't like Kenda. To be fair, the second half of Kenda isn't bad. It's okay. The first half of Kenda drives me mad because the Doctor does act like an idiot at times. I just don't get into this one. It's studio bound, and some of it probably should have been location work. The scenes where Tegan is possessed by the Mara are fantastic. And my hat's off to Janet for that. And I really wish she had been possessed by the Mara longer. And I'm actually glad we got Snake Dance as a sequel. I much prefer Snake Dance. I'll never understand why somebody likes Kenda better than Snake Dance. I much prefer Snake Dance. I actually like Snake Dance. But Janet's good in that brief time. The other guy who gets possessed, he just doesn't do much for me. The guy who loses his mind, that you can't mend people, he's good. He's really good at playing that unhinged. And I love that line. You can't mend people. I love that line. And then the woman who plays the kind of doctor there, the one that's part of that group, she's really good too. I like her a lot. And I like the old kind of blind light woman, the one who keeps calling the doctor idiot. I like her because he is acting like an idiot in that story. But I just don't get into the first half of that story. The second half becomes much better. And the episode 3 cliffhanger is also really good. I'm just not a big fan of Kenda as a whole, though. I forget the exact order of episodes here. And then I believe we move on to the Visitation. I really like the Visitation. My biggest complaint with the Visitation is that the robot design is not too great. I mean, when he's disguised as the Grim Reaper, that's good. But when he's just the robot, it's one of those things you look at and go, ah, this was made in the 80s. And I don't mean that in the good way, which I often do. When you show me Mike's score with his awesome haircut, I'm like, yes. I wanted to have my haircut like that at one time, but all my friends said they disowned me. Love me some Mike Score. A Flock of Seagulls is one of my favorite bands. And they sing one of my favorite songs. It's actually my ringtone. But I just don't, I don't get into that outfit. That's the bad side of the 80s. It just, I can't take it seriously. The location work looks really good. Again, I really love the location work for this episode. I do enjoy the episode. I actually like the costume design for the lizard guys. I forget their name, but the lizard guys, pretty good costume for them. I like the voice work for them. I like the opening where the family's like trying to defend from them, and we never actually find out what happens to the family. I mean, we just assume they all get killed, but I like the fact it doesn't show it or touch on it again. That's interesting to me. The bit when the Doctor finds the little wall that's not a wall and goes through it, I like that. The actor playing the kind of bounty hunter-like guy, you know, with the dual guns, I can't remember his name. I think it starts with an M. I forget what he is. Vagabond, bounty. I forget what he is, but I like him. The main guest guy that's helping him, I like, which is crazy because I don't think the actor who plays him looks favorably on that role. I don't think he liked that role at all, but he's so good in that role, and I love him as a character. He's just fantastic in it. He's one of the reasons I like the story. And then I like the resolution of the story with it being the fire at the end. No, I think we'll let this fire burn. I like that one. It's a good way to end that story. And then this is the one where the Sonic gets destroyed, and the Sonic's gone. We do not see the Sonic screwdriver, all the way up to the TV movie? I don't think it ever showed back up in Classic Who. That's interesting to me. I like the Visitation a lot. And then we have Black Orchid. I don't really get into Black Orchid. My favorite part of Black Orchid is the location work because it looks gorgeous. And the Doctor playing cricket. And I love the fact we get to see the Doctor just kind of chilling out, playing cricket, having a good time. That's cool. Just a little breather. I also respect and love the fact that we have a pure historical in the 80s. The first pure historical since the Highlanders, and arguably the last pure historical we've ever had. I would argue that I would say it's the last pure historical we've ever had, all the way up to Demons of the Punjab. But Demons of the Punjab probably technically doesn't count, even though it basically is a First Doctor pure historical. But but Black Orchid is definitely a pure historical. Them stumbling into things, events play out, they leave. I like that. No other really alien influence. I don't really care for the story itself. And plus, I never like when one of the main characters play another character, unless there's a reason for it. I'm not a big fan of Enemy of the World. The Massacre, I actually enjoy the novelization. And the TV episode's fine. But I still never like when the, oh, look, there's someone that looks just like the Doctor or a companion. So the whole thing with Nyssa and the other girl Sarah's playing, I'm just kind of... The only story that really gets away with it for me is Meglos, because it's actually part of the plot why Tom Baker's playing two characters. And Meglos is fantastic. I love Meglos. I wish Meglos was like a part or two longer. Losing my train of thought here. But I just don't get into the story much. The case of mistaken identity with the mask, is kind of like, of course that happens to him. I don't necessarily think it's good or bad, but it's just one of those of course things. I do love the line when the Doctor's exploring the hidden passageway, and he goes, why do I always let my curiosity get the better of me? I just love the self-awareness of that a lot, and the way Davison says the line. And of course the Doctor finds the dead body, and he's like, of course I find a dead body. He doesn't say that, but that's the look. And when he goes to show him the dead body, it's gone, and he's just like... I like him showing the constable and the inspector the TARDIS, and them just kind of rolling with it. It's like, well, he's obviously proven what he said to us. All right, Doctor, there are some good things. I don't really care for this story, but there's definitely some good stuff going on in this story. And then, of course, you have Earthshock. I probably don't really even have to talk much about Earthshock. Earthshock is fantastic. I actually really love the work in the first episode. Like in the caves, I love the filming in the caves. We have a little bit of location work right there at the beginning outside of the caves. I love the filming in the caves. Although, to be honest, the filming in the caves is probably studio, isn't it? I don't really know. But it looks good. I like the mystery of who is behind it for that first episode, because it doesn't have Cybermen in the title. It's not like what happened a lot in Doctor Who, where, the Daleks are going to show up because it's like Genesis of the Daleks, Day of the Daleks, Death to the Daleks. Or the Cybermen are going to show up. It's Revenge of the Cybermen, Tomb of the Cybermen. It's not exactly surprising when they show up, even if they try to make that the cliffhanger at the end of part one. But with Earthshock, they just call it Earthshock. And the fact the Cybermen haven't been on the show since Revenge of the Cybermen, which was, like 7 or 8 years ago. So I like the fact that it's just the androids attacking at first, and the Doctor doesn't know what they're fighting. And it's not until the end when you see the Cybermen, destroy them at once. And that's the cliffhanger, and you're like, oh, my silver boys are back. Woo! I bet Jess loved that, because I know Jess, she loves the Cybermen on her channel, so I bet she just loved that. Well, I've seen her reaction to it, so I know she did. And then I like the story. It has this epic feel to it. Like, to be honest, the plot of Earthshock really is just kind of a rewritten rehash of Revenge of the Cybermen. They have a very similar plot, although Earthshock doesn't have the planet-sized plot hole that Revenge does, and it definitely has a more epic feel. Like, if someone was to ask me what's better, Revenge of the Cybermen or Earthshock, I have to say Earthshock. I just have to. I might prefer Revenge of the Cybermen, and personally I do prefer Revenge of the Cybermen. I think it's fun, and I love Tom Baker, and I love that TARDIS team better. But if you ask me which one is objectively better, Earthshock has to win that. It feels more refined. It feels like they took a couple extra passes on the script, and it has a very epic feel to it. I like the set design. I actually really like the woman playing the captain of the ship. I know some people say she's miscast, but I've done my spiel on that before. I'm not going to do it here. But because of the way I headcanon certain things with that story, I think she's cast perfectly for the role. Like, perfectly. She's great in the role. I love it. Of course, Adric's death. Not often we get a companion death in classic Doctor Who. Is done very well. And the fact the Doctor can't go back and change it, I really like. And I really like how the Doctor on the season 19 set's holding Adric's little star here. and how that moment really sticks with him. It shows how impactful it is. The fact his very last word before he regenerates is Adric. How much that really stays with him. Because classic Who, he didn't lose companions a lot. That's more a new Who thing. But Earthshock deserves the accolades it gets. It's a great story. And then we have Time Flight, which I think is underrated. It's a little naff looking, especially some CSO stuff. I think Time Flight, while being mostly studio bound, it does have some location filming, because some of it's filmed at Heathrow. I'm assuming that's actually probably film. Come to think of it, I'm not 100% certain. So one of you will know. But I'm willing to bet the stuff that was shot on location at Heathrow is probably film, and probably the original film elements, so that probably looks better. But the studio stuff looks a little naff with some of the little blob creatures and the effect when they put people in their webs. But I actually enjoy the story for the most part. Now, the way they handle the Master in this is silly, with him first being dressed up as Khalid, which is... I feel like I'm supposed to be offended on behalf of someone. I'm not actually sure who. Like, it strikes me as kind of a racist caricature. I'm not quite sure of what. But I feel like I'm supposed to be... I feel like I should be offended on behalf of somebody. And there's no reason to do it. Why can't it just be the Master? And we both know, all of us watching know, the only reason they do that is so you can have that reveal at the end of part 2 when it's actually like, it's actually me, Master. Mwah! We know. That's the only reason they do that, is so they can reveal, oh, it's the Master again. That's the only reason. Otherwise, it makes way more sense for him to just have been the Master the whole time. I enjoy the episode. Again, I like the guest cast, the airline pilots, especially the one airline pilot who really seems to have his stuff together. I like that guy, but all the airline pilots are good. And then the old man, the kind of professor psychiatrist guy with the glasses, I like him too. Like, he's very irritating at times, but the actor sells it, so I like that. So the guest cast are really good. I enjoy the story. I like Time Flight. It's not a story I'm like, I watched Time Flight last week. I think I'd do another rewatch of Time Flight. But I am one of those people, I might be like, man, it's probably been 1.5 years since I watched Time Flight. Might be time to rewatch Time Flight. Time Flight's not a story I need to watch multiple times a year. But if it's been a couple years, yeah, put on Time Flight. I like it. So it's definitely a roller coaster of a season in terms of quality for me. I mean, if I was to rank them, I have Kenda at the bottom. I don't really like Kenda. Again, with the stipulation that the second half is considerably better than the first half. But overall, don't really care for it. Next on the list is Black Orchid. Again, I don't really care for the story. I love the location work. Love the location work. Oh, and we get to see Tegan doing the Charleston. Plus, I like Tegan's outfit. And I don't mean like, I like Tegan's outfit. I mean, I just like that outfit. That outfit looks really good on her. And then just to see her doing the Charleston, that is absolutely awesome. So it's weird because if you hear me talk about the story in this video, I'm smiling and laughing a lot. But the story itself, I don't really care for. It just has these little bits in it that are really fun. And that does give it a rewatchability to me. Also, the fact it's only a 2-parter adds to that. Plus, the commentary track. Have you listened to the audio commentary? That's hilarious. You get to listen to Peter Davison and then just rip into this story. And that's a lot of fun. Next on the list is Time Flight. That's right, Time Flight is not at the bottom. It's not even second from the bottom. It makes it up to 5th place. Again, I find it underrated. Some of the effects are naff. Sure. Could it use some updated effects? Yes. But I like the story. It's kind of the opposite of Black Orchid. Where Black Orchid's my main problem is I don't like the story. I like some of the other stuff going on in it, and the way it's filmed and directed is great. Don't like the story. Time Flight's the opposite. It might look a bit naffed in places, but I like the story. It engages me. Next on the list is Earthshock. I know most people would probably have Earthshock higher, and to be fair, there's a big gap between Earthshock and Time Flight. It's a big jump between 5th place up to 4th place. Big jumping quality here. Earthshock is great. I like Earthshock. It deserves all of its accolades. I just happen to like the other 3 stories better. Number 3 is The Visitation. Love the location work. Again, love the kind of bounty hunter-like guy. He's not a bounty hunter. I just don't know what to call him. Vagabond. I don't know what to call him, but you guys know who I'm talking about. He's great. The guy playing him sells it. I like that Nyssa gets stuff to do. Nyssa gets stuff to do. She gets to blow up the robot. Yes. I like this one a lot. I really, really like The Visitation. And then we have Forward to Doomsday, which I've already talked about. I love Forward to Doomsday. Definitely the most underrated story of the season for me. And the one if there's one story this season where I feel like opinion on it is just very divided, it's this one. Because I see people how they can't stand it, people who really like it, people who think it's overrated, people who think it's underrated. I see a plethora of different opinions on this story. But I'm definitely firmly in the like it camp. A lot of fun, Fort of Doomsday. And then number one on the list, just barely over Fort of Doomsday, really is Castrovalva. I like Castrovalva a lot. I just think it's really well made. I really like the ideas going on in it. I really like the performances in it. And it's another, my mind just went blank. It's also got, I can't believe my mind just went blank. I talk about him all the time when he shows up in Doctor Who episodes. But my mind, Michael Sheard. Michael Sheard it's another episode with Michael Sheard in it. And I don't know, it's just, I like those actors that show up in Doctor Who a lot. Like, they're just there. And Michael Sheard is one of those. You know, I like when he shows up. So I'm always a little happy when I see him. Kind of like I always love when I get to see Terry Walsh. Because Terry Walsh really is one of those unsung heroes of Doctor Who. You know, stunt double. I believe he stunt doubled for John and Tom. And then he does have those little bit parts, like being the Auton police officer that gets the mask pulled off. He plays like the security gate guy in Green Death. I believe he's in the Time Monster, the guy who falls off. I always love when I spot Terry Walsh. You know, it's just those kind of things that a lot of Doctor Who fans, especially younger Doctor Who fans, they might not catch that. If, you know, say I was at a theater watching it, and I'm watching the Time Monster, and I see him on the ladder, and I just kind of out loud go, oh, Terry Walsh. They're not going to know who I'm talking about. But it's a fun little moment for those of us, and probably a lot of you who watch the channel. You know Terry Walsh when you see him. He's one of those, and Michael Sheard is the same way like that for me. Just one of those actors, when you see him, you're like, another Terry Walsh appearance, another Michael Sheard. You know, those actors you see show up a lot in classic Doctor Who. I really enjoy that. You know, I'm always happy when I spot Terry Walsh and Michael Sheard. So that one goes at number one for me. Just a really good story. Really good story. Great performance from Anthony Ainley as well. And I really feel like Peter Davison does it well. Now, I know it's not the first one he filmed. Fort of Doomsday was the first one he filmed. And to be fair, he's great in Fort of Doomsday. I love in Fort of Doomsday, right when he walks out of the TARDIS and he sees the camera thing. And he gives it that smile. I wonder how many women melted over that smile. You see that smile he just gives the camera? Yeah, that is such a winning smile. Said, yeah, there's the ladies' man doctor right there. So that is how I would rank them and what I think of Season 19. I like Season 19. Again, it is my middle Davison season. It's not my favorite Davison season. It's not my least favorite Davison season. It is the middle one to me. It has its high highs, it has its low lows, and it has its middle of the road stories, which is a lot like Season 21. Season 21 has high highs, low lows, and some stuff in the middle. Whereas Season 20 to me is not necessarily, especially if you don't count 5 Doctors, not necessarily high highs, but I don't really think it has any low lows. I think it's just very consistently good. I find Season 20 to be the most consistent season in terms of quality. It might not have anything that necessarily reaches the highs of Earthshock or Castrovalva, but it has no lows like Kenda or Black Orchid or Warriors of the Deep or Twin Dilemma. And, you know, you throw 5 Doctors into the mix, then you have a phenomenally good story. And then a lot of other stories that are just good, varying levels of good to great. Maybe not any masterpieces, but good to great. And really, 20 is the only season that does that, whereas 21's a lot like 19, where you have high highs, low lows. For Season 21, it's the book-ending stories that are the low lows, let's be honest. And then some stuff that's also middle of the road. So I want to know what you think of Season 19 of Classic Doctor Who, the first season of Classic Doctor Who after Tom Baker had departed. How did it do? Trying to survive after Tom Baker's had just left with his shadow looming large over the show. Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon. If you would like to support me on that, there is a link down there in the description. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney, Sam Venning, and Unknown289. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and my YouTube members. I have a P.O. box down there if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. Matter of fact, if anyone's interested, I've gotten obsessed with these Transformers blockies lately. Because most of you know I'm also a huge Transformers fan. As much as I am a Doctor Who fan, I love Transformers. So I've started collecting these little blockies figures. Now I've got the first wave, and I've got the second wave, or the second Galaxy wave, coming. So I'll have Galaxies Wave 1 and 2, but I still need to get the other Galaxy waves. And I'd love to get the Shining waves. If you can go to the Blocky website and tell you. But if anybody wants to send anything like that, their little blind box, I'd love to have them. I just figured I'd throw that out there because you'd be amazed what you can get in life just by asking, honest and truly. There's a lot of really, really awesome people out there. So I wanted to mention that. Again, the P.O. box is down there. Link to the Amazon wishlist, link to the Amazon UK wishlist. Check those out. Losing my train of thought. It's been a long day. Most importantly, thank you for watching.